like to announce the next panel. The next panel will be the regional focus. We will focus on the region here, on the region of Southeast Europe. As we are in Istanbul, I will call my dear friends from the region. First of all, Professor Panayotis Katakidis from Thessaloniki, chairman of Southeast Europe Research Center. He will be the moderator of the panel. Then, as a first panelist, I would like to tell you that we today have in the room His Excellency, Mr. Besim Bekaj, who is the Innovation Minister of Kosovo. I'm really fond of him because he's also a Zagreb student from Croatia. And, well, I will welcome him on the stage here. There is Michael Gold, our panelist, a dear friend from, it says here in the brochure, Czech Republic, but Michael has been around here for years. Michael is a Chief Executive Officer of the Crimson Capital. And Ogzu Loksan Yavuz, Secretary General of the Istanbul Development Agency, Turkey. So let's see what's it all about in the region and how do we stand with the impact investing and understanding of this topic. Panos.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Welcome to the second best session after the previous one. First of all, thank you the panelists for their time that they gave to come to this session. The topic of our session, as you have seen, is financing innovation through impact investment in Southeast Europe. But before I start, please allow me to introduce our panelists very briefly, because if I read all the CV, it will take days. So I will start with the Minister of Innovation and Entrepreneurship of the Republic of Kosovo, Besim Bekaj. Before that, he was appointed as minister. Actually, this role that he had, and I think is a new Ministry of Kosovo, right? So congratulations to the government and also to you. Before that, he was also a Minister of Finance. Before that, he was a Minister of Economic Development and also a Minister of the European Integration. That's the political part, but also he has all this entrepreneurial thing. He was the President of the Kosovo Chamber of Commerce 2005-2010 and was elected twice. And of course, he is a Dr. Bekaj. That means that he spent many years reading and writing exams. Now, the second, my dearest friend, it's in a month now, we've seen each other twice, that's a good one. Ogzu Loksan Yavuz is the Secretary General of Istanbul Development Agency and a member of the Board of Directors of the European Association of Regional Development Agencies, EURATA. Before holding these positions, he was General Manager of the Istanbul Convention and Visitors Bureau while serving in the Executive Board of European Cities Marketing Associations. She has many other things, I will skip that. And she has an MSc degree from for the Center for Urban and Regional Studies in the University of Birmingham and from Urban Policy Planning and Local Governance Program at the Middle East Technical University. And then the last, as we say, Mike, and not the least, my dearest friend Michael Gold, that he's actually having his more than 42 years experience, 27 years in the emerging markets. He's actually part of the Central Eastern Europe now, Mike, after so many years. Thank you very much for coming here. He specializes in increasing access to finance, innovation, entrepreneurship, competitiveness, privatization, foreign direct investments, and many other things. He actually he has a result of over $7 billion in debt and equity financing, foreign direct investments, and so on. And the last one I would say, and I will stop with this so we can start, he is active in the Balkans since 1995. So I guess he has something to say about what we're doing here. Now, I'm proposing the panel to go as follows. I will start with a brief introduction, 1 or 2 minutes, because we don't have lots of time, and then I will ask my panelists maybe for 5 minutes to say a few things about the impact investment in their countries and in the region, because they travel also and they know. And then after that, maybe we can ask you if you have some questions, and then we'll go with one takeaway from the panelists, and we'll finish. If that's okay with you, we can start. Okay? Great. Now, okay. Impact investing, I'm doing that from my other hat, not as a business angel, but also as a professor. There is not a definition. They say, okay, measurable is not philanthropy, but it's not definition academically, okay? So it's a debate there. That's why it was a very good question, and that's why he said, okay, you may know. In my knowledge, 2017, when the Rockefeller actually Foundation invited finance, philanthropy, and that in the Bellagio Center in order to discuss about impact investment. In the last 5 years, of course, we see that this is a trending topic, and it's between the intersection of investment, management, community, and economic development. Yesterday I said, let me try to do a Google search with the keyword impact investing, and I saw 10,400,000 results. So if you do it today, maybe it's more. Okay, that was yesterday night, 10 million. Now, some numbers in order to start to see what is, I believe strongly on impact investing. Let's start with this one. A survey of 125 international impact investors that responded indicate that there is currently managing 46 billion in impact investment. The global impact investing network that you know estimates that the potential for impact investment will be in the range of 400 billion to nearly 1 trillion by 2020. Okay. Universities such as Columbia have launched impact investing initiatives and have included impact investing courses in their curriculum. So we see that impact investing gets lots of attention, and also impact investing has attracted increased attention from the public sector. Governments around the world have been actively supporting industry development, and in Europe, UK leading this way. But we are here to discuss in this panel what are the opportunities and challenges in the impact investment ecosystem of Southeast Europe, and how do policymakers respond to increased demands for impact investment. And allow me to follow the protocol, and I will start the question starting from the Minister.
Thank you very much. Doesn't matter protocol. If we want to have somebody else, no problem. Maybe a lady from Istanbul. But anyway, I liked, let me just say hello to everyone. I liked one of the statements of the gentleman before when he was saying that in the region we talk a lot, and this is starting from Slovenia down to here in Turkey, and there is less productive work on the field. In that sense, as a person in public life, quite a long time, but as well as an entrepreneur, I'm trying to bring to the government a new spirit of thinking about the new investments. Therefore, we are a new country. It's just on 17th we have celebrated 10th anniversary of our independence. So basically we were in a trial of healing the wounds from the war and from the big of losses. So it was not the real priority economy for some time. It was a priority to build the state, priority to consolidate the peace, to consolidate the infrastructure. But nowadays, with the new developments, the big focus is going to happen in the economy. Actually, the ministry as such, Ministry of Innovation and Entrepreneurship, is a innovation, and it's a startup itself, because we want to direct our economy toward the world developments, what's happening. If we just look to the last World Economic Forum, and if we say what President Macron was saying, he was saying that basically they want to invest 10 billions of euros into the innovation and make the innovation backbone of the economy. And if we look into the OECD report in 2016, which was saying that today the kids, which are born, when they are becoming 18 to enter the job market, 80% of them will works that do not exist today. Or if we follow the Jack Ma World Congress in Davos, he was saying that in 2030, 800 million jobs will be taken by robots. So it's new era, it's a new revolution which is happening, and that's why we wanted to move in that direction. Our government has established a ministry, and we are in the process of establishing the fund for innovation and entrepreneurship, which we do believe that will be followed then by private sector, and we are just trying to strengthen the way of private investments and maybe the network of business angels, which has been established before but never functioned in pretty well manner. In this sense, I would say that as a government we have a great examples of successful people, but the institutions are in challenge now to follow those people. Our young generation are moving much faster than we are. 60% of our population is younger than 35. And we have a great successes which are having on individual basis, and I think that the government is what is supposed to do. Recently we have adopted a law on strategic investment which allows government to enter in direct negotiations with the potential strategic investors, which I think it's a big move. And when I mentioned some successful stories, let me just share with you some of them. Doing Business Report in 2017 has ranked Kosovo at the 40th rank out of 190. So we were on the top performers in European Union as a Europe at all. Last year, this forum has awarded Kosovo government with the best government for supporting entrepreneurship. Forbes list, just some days ago, has awarded 3 girls from Kosovo, under 30, which are working on opening the data and working on, let's say, better transparency and accountability through the technology in the government. And we are very proud of them, 3 girls who are making a difference in the world. And just yesterday, actually, was announced that NASA has awarded a girl called Pranvera, 24 under 24, as a young girl who are achieving to make a difference in the world. So basically, I'm just telling what kind of capacity we have these days and what our governments have to work. In terms of entrepreneurship and the entrepreneurial spirit, the Kosovars are known to be entrepreneurial, but now as a government we have to make streamline of such investments. And speaking about impact investments and social impact investments, I think there's work to be done, and we have to learn in the region. We have to start it from the scratch, because as long as we are speaking, there are still no good results on that, and that's why actually we are here. And I'm very thankful for the invitation to be here and to hear a lot of people, to bring the new ideas and to learn. Why not? I mean, to learn and to see how we can implement in our country. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll go to the second round later, so maybe we can continue with Ms. Yavuz.
Mr. Minister gave a national focus, of course, and I will be speaking from a regional point of view. Surely in Turkey at the national level are ministries and research centers who are funding entrepreneurship projects and also the innovation. But as the Secretary General of Istanbul Development Agency, I will be giving some examples, and I will be talking about the policy of the development agencies in Turkey, how we are trying to invest in the impacts for entrepreneurship, skills, spirits, and also the innovation idea among especially young people. For example, as Istanbul Development Agency, we didn't choose to invest in the startups directly. So we didn't want to give the seed capital. We didn't want to give the money directly to startups. We didn't want to spend our budget, which is public money, like this. Instead, we choose a couple of different paths. One of them is we highly invested in the creation for the incubation centers, for example. We have invested for more than 20-25 incubation centers, especially the ones within the universities and also the ones with the collaboration of strong NGOs in Istanbul. While doing this, we had managed to create the necessary infrastructure for the startups. And this was one way that we wanted to create an impact in this area, because in this way we have supported the ecosystem actually as a whole, instead of supporting one startup or another. So this was one path. We've been doing this for the last 5 years, and we will go on to do this for the next three years. And also the acceleration programs we are supporting. And in some other regions, some other development agencies, for example, the one in Ankara, is slowly starting to support the individual startups also. But for Istanbul, we choose this way. Another project was, as Baybars was talking in the opening speech, is Invest in Istanbul program. It's a new program. We are trying to create an environment for especially the international investors to ease up their jobs while they are trying to set up their new company here in Istanbul. It's totally funded by Istanbul Development Agency, and this is also a good project which we have received an award last night. We are trying to create an impact to making their job easy in terms of bureaucracy and networking, matchmaking. We are trying to do for the entrepreneurs. We are trying to do this job, and all of them are free of charge, surely. And another thing is our population is a young population. 47% of Istanbul's population is under the age of 29. So we said that we have to create a spirit among young people and also for children, especially for this entrepreneurship idea or word, and also for being a more innovative people. Because Mr. Minister was too right when he was saying that most of the jobs that we are doing today will not be existing in the very near future. So we are trying to create the capacity to increase their abilities to learn the new jobs, new professions, let's say. So we shouldn't invest in the education, but we should invest in the infrastructures which can increase their capacities or talents, whatever it is. But talents are becoming more important. So as regional bodies in Turkey, usually the development agencies have become an important player both for innovation and entrepreneurship idea, and in their regions they are doing a lot. So it's a good intermediary actually between the national level and between the private sector also. Thank you.
Before we go to Mike, for these incubators and accelerators, does any of them focus to have a social impact, environmental impact, and all these things. Are you aware about that?
Yeah, some of them are creating a quota, a certain, for example, 10%, 20% of them are specified especially for these social impact projects. And with a couple of foundations and with one of the universities, prominent universities, with Boğaziçi University, we had done a couple of projects especially for social entrepreneurship projects, because we have realized that in the traditional trainings and traditional education programs for entrepreneurship, usually they don't mention at all about the social entrepreneurship programs. So we have, with Boğaziçi University, with Bosphorus University, we have created a program for university students, not only for that university, but for all university students in Istanbul. For example, we have picked 600 students, and we have created a special modules, training modules, only for social responsibility projects. And we have trained those people, and then out of this 600, 150 people became really interested in the idea of being a social entrepreneur. And then we gave different levels of trainings, and we have also created some mentorship programs for them. And out of that, we had 24 great ideas they had created, and 7 of them have been invested by the corporates. Usually, the corporate world is more interested with the social responsibility or social investment projects, not the investors too much. Yeah.
Mike, the floor is yours now.
Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to be here. In the previous keynotes for this session summit today on impact investment, several things were mentioned. Candace Johnson said she didn't necessarily intend to make money or intend to be a social impact investor. She saw a problem, and so she wanted to solve it. A lot of the problems that we all face today are social problems. Disparate opportunities for women or minorities, environmental issues, things like that. And I think if we look from the point of view of what are the problems and then work to try and solve them, I think we all become social impact oriented, and if we're investors, we can become social impact investors. The other thing, it was mentioned that the question of do we ever donate money, and then do we ever invest money? And do they have to be completely different? I would say I'm increasingly seeing people that are making investments for money, taking the social impact part of that into the equation. So you see major mutual funds, retirement funds making decisions to divest from certain activities that might make them money, but might have a negative environmental impact or a negative social impact, and they actively seek to invest to support women or other disadvantaged populations. And I see that as a good sign. I hadn't really thought about it before, but now that our moderator pointed out how old I am, in some ways, I think I've been trying to have social impact in my activities for those long 42 years. Starting when I was managing research institutes in the universities and looking to find technologies or other things that could be transferred out into the private sector where they actually help people. Just basic research that sits at a publication or is brought in a conference doesn't. So that was a very active decision I made very early on to try and find those faculty or student ideas that had potential to help people and then work to get them out where they could actually do good, which is how I started learning about finance, because I had no idea. And to develop technology and commercialize it, somebody has to fund it and somebody has to commercialize it. So from that point of view, it goes way back, which starting in '91, I became involved in international development. And I see ourselves as an impact institution, because what we try and do through our activities and collaborations is to give opportunities for people, create jobs, and things like that. I would just like to take my time to just give some examples of things that I think are doing that. A few examples in the Balkans. We have the Crimson Finance Funds. They're non-bank financial institutions in Macedonia, Kosovo, and now Albania. And we specifically look to finance businesses that are underserved. They are either not able to get money from traditional sources, or they can't get all the money they need to grow. And we want growth because that creates jobs. So far we've invested $66 million. It's to 1,100 businesses, and these are all micro, small, medium businesses. By Western European standards, I think they'd all probably be micro. But in that process, we've helped these businesses create over $500 million in exports, and almost none of these businesses were exporting before. So created almost 11,000 jobs, and I'm very pleased to say that half of those are for women. And of our portfolio, about 20% of our portfolio finances women in business, which compared to the other institutions is quite high. And in fact, in the 3 countries we work in, the percentage of our portfolio lending to women is more than the percentage of women ownership of businesses. So we're very pleased about that, but that we actively look for women-owned businesses. We look for agriculture, which is underrepresented. In that regard, I would just like to mention, in the room we have the CEO and deputy CEO of Bank for Business in Kosovo. And I'm very pleased to say that their bank takes this approach of very actively looking to have impact, to support women entrepreneurs, other entrepreneurs. And I think that's a very good sign when you see commercial banks taking those things into account. I think the minister was being a little modest. The government invested alongside of major donors to create the Kosovo Credit Guarantee Fund. And the purpose of this guarantee fund is to help the financial institutions in Kosovo mobilize their excess liquidity into exactly these kinds of underserved businesses, women-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses, businesses that have an environmental focus. And that's going extremely well, and all the banks, all the commercial banks are now members, and it's creating incremental financing to these businesses that we're having trouble to finance. We mentioned incubators and programs like that. There's the Innovation Center Kosovo, and now Venture Up at the University of Pristina, which are just 2 examples of programs that are trying to provide skills to entrepreneurs, incubate them, and both have a social impact aspect to them in terms of encouraging women entrepreneurs and encouraging entrepreneurs to undertake products and services that that are environmentally sound. And the good news is seeing the percentage of women entrepreneurs going through these programs is quite good. On the energy side, regionally, there's examples. The EBRD had the WebCEF program, which helped banks lend to energy efficiency and renewable energy projects. They now have the Western Balkan Green Economy Financing Facility, again working with existing banks and microfinance institutions to help businesses and entrepreneurs and households be environmentally sound. And the MCC recently signed a compact with Kosovo for 49 million euros, and 50% of that fund is going to go towards supporting the development of renewable energy and energy efficiency. And so, and you see increasing efforts like the European Investment Fund from the last panel that are taking those kind of efforts and the focus on giving opportunities to women and supporting activities that have a positive social impact. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike, for the details and all the examples that you gave. Now, we don't have much time, so maybe one takeaway message that the panelists could give, how we can support impact investment in Southeast Europe, what is your vision, and so on, so we can go. But we don't have much time, so we can be briefly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mark has mentioned some of the initiatives, and as I said before, we are working on creating the basis for the legislation which will support innovative ideas and the startups. Basically, up to now, we did not have enough legislation in place which will allow direct financing or impact social financing investments into the private sector. We are working these days on the strategy for innovation and entrepreneurship, out of which we will have the law on innovation and entrepreneurship, and then we will put in place the fund for innovation and entrepreneurship, and with that we want to have, with the government money, impact investments which will be able to invest in those categories up to the startups. So from the pre-incubation, incubation phase until the startups, because the startups are not eligible for financing from the banking sector. When I was Minister of Finance, we have launched this energy fund with the EBRD because we wanted to have that impact, and we are thinking now these days with the government funds and with the credit guarantee fund to stimulate the businesses not to take the risk, but as well to be part of the investments and the risk to be taken by the government. With the fund we are establishing right now, the focus is going to be for the young people and for the women in entrepreneurship. And just lay an example again. These days we had a company which was financed by the ICK. ICK is Innovation Center of Kosovo. It's an NGO. We are going these days to match funds with other donors to support their activities. And we have at least 200 companies which are working these days, and some of them are making a big impact locally but as well internationally. We have a zombie soup company called, which recently is exporting all activities toward American market. And the idea of the fund again is to finance and to have an impact into the companies which have possibilities to export, but they do not have enough necessary measures or knowledge with the vocational education training, with the marketing, and for example, what I'm doing these days with German market, I'm calling a buyers association from Germany. It's an association like SIPO in Switzerland, which is Swiss Import Promotion Organization, bringing them to Kosovo, speaking to our entrepreneurs. If they need to match their needs for their exports or products or services, whatever, we will support our companies in marketing, in trainings, in a capacity building, in the way of communicating their products.
Sorry,
and with this we will be able to move in the direction of making impact with the public money, but as well with the consolidating private money to enter in that direction. Thank you.
Maybe one word, because we don't have time. One word, please, if you can just say, give us your vision.
Okay, I think the entrepreneurship spirit is very important, especially for the young people, and for social responsibility, being a responsible person. This idea is very important. So we should give more trainings, and also in the curriculums there should be more ideas and programs like this. It should be embedded in our national education programs. It shouldn't be an extra, I think. It should be the basics. And only then I think that governments can support to have inclusive solutions, because if a project, if an entrepreneurship is socially responsible, then it is more inclusive also. So to make people part of a solution, this is important.
Thank you. Okay, Mike, very quick, please. Sorry.
I would encourage the governments and private sector in the region to look at the legal framework for what we call social enterprise. Some countries are better than others, but it's a way for people who have the social intent, but it still wants to be a profitable company to incentivize them. Thank you.
And my final point, I agree what Mike said. Without a specific framing of the concept, government, and I have two people here, actors, cannot provide targeted support to build the necessary market ecosystem. So we need that first in order to make it happen, and let us dream. Thank you very much, and sorry about that.
Maybe one last word, because I was thinking that we will start 11:30 and finish 12:30. So that was the session, which has been incorporated in 30 minutes. We are pity that we cannot. Exactly, yes. So we can be straight to the point, and we were straight to the point. So